Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is Robert Phoenix, and I'm back. Hey, how about that? You thought you could get rid of me? Not so fast. It's been a wild and whirlwind time over the last, I don't know what we're talking about, 2 weeks. So I apologize for not being around here as much lately because I just had a ton of stuff to do. But we're back on track and back in the swing of things and get back into the normal schedule of life, as it were. Many of you know that about 2 weeks ago we had a little event here in the Hill Country, which the reverberations are still being felt by the many who attended. Those of you who came here and participated, I hope you're still really buzzing at a high level. I know I am. It was fantastic, really life-changing, life-altering event on so many levels. So, I went into that and started that in preparation for that and deep into that. And then I left like 2 days after that. And as some of you know, I was in Philadelphia basically from Wednesday of last week until yesterday. Left yesterday. So I'm back in Texas. I'll be back in Fredericksburg later today. And we'll be back in the home studio doing the show tomorrow. I got my TV eyes, stare into my TV eyes. Yeah, a lot's going on. A lot has happened. A lot is still happening. Where do we start? Where do we start? How about yesterday at the Philadelphia airport? I can start there. Let me see who's here. Let me say hello to people. That's a good place to start. We're looking at a bunch of stuff today. Chart of the moment. We're moving into Scorpio, away from Sagittarius. Let's see what we got here. We have one watching now. That's me. Okay. One watching now. Two watching now. There we go. We got two people watching now. One other person besides me. Anybody else? Three watching now. Oh, slowly they trickle in. Morning chat. Let me just do a little morning chat. Morning all. We got 6 now. Hey, there's Raven. There's Lori. There's Judy. Hi, Judy. All right. You're starting to assemble. I guess I can just kind of hang out for a little bit and we'll see who shows up. I apologize for not being on as much. It's just been, it's a time thing. It's a time thing. When I go back to Philadelphia, and I want to thank Solutions for making my stay possible and providing all the necessary time and tools and energy to be able to get back there. And so when I go there, I lock in and, I'll probably do, I don't know, maybe about 5 readings a day. That's about right. So let's see, a Saturday, Sunday, 10, and then 5. I do about 15 to 16 readings while I go back there. So it's very kind of labor intensive. Lock in and go, lock in and go, lock in and go, right? And then I'm done. So it's hard. I mean, it's not impossible, but like those mornings to just kind of like get it together so I can work with people on a one-on-one basis. Let's see, Isla. Oh, I loved your presentation. Yeah, that was a really interesting night. You're on the early side. Maury's keeping track. I like that. You're on the early side today. Somebody notices. Yeah, the solutions thing was interesting on a lot of levels because I just gotten out of a massage. I love massages. I should probably get them more often, but I don't. But I wanted to get one that day because I was feeling a little funky. I felt like a cold was coming on. So, okay, I'll go have this massage. And it was terrific. It was amazing. And a big shout out to Spa Haven in Newtown. It was incredible. And just, deep tissue stuff and really working things. And then when I got up out of the massage, I couldn't see straight. My vision was incredibly blurry. Now I wasn't spinning or anything, but it was really weird. And I was like, what is going on here? So it kind of impacted my presentation for the talk at Solutions. And then when I went in and got everything wired up, I was having some technical difficulties with Zoom, and I was not able to use I wasn't even able to use Zoom for whatever reason. It was really weird, because normally just go in, plug it, schedule the webinar, all that stuff, and I'm off and running with Zoom. But in this case, it was not working. So, I was trying to do something and create a live document. So I switched over to Boxcast. And with Boxcast, it's a different kind of platform. So with Boxcast, I go in and I use this thing called OBS. And then when I do that, I have to grab the documents ahead of time. And I could do screen share there, but I was really pressed for time, and I couldn't just grab the documents, meaning the charts, and read off the charts. So I apologize for not having charts. And somebody was over on the YouTube page, and they were giving me some shit because I didn't have the charts. When I have some time, I will reinsert the charts or insert the charts on that video so people know what I'm talking about. And I think it's valid on some level. And part of what I do here is part of what's called the oral tradition, storytelling, poetry, the tradition of the bard, passing on knowledge in kind of an oral way. Obviously it's more than that because we have video cameras and there's chat, so it's kind of a multimedia affair. But that's the way things used to be. You sit around a campfire and somebody, would tell stories, or they would look at the stars, and maybe that was their screen. I don't know, maybe that was their screen projection. But that's how these things worked. And people were taken along on the power of the word, the tale of the story, and the unfolding of a narrative. And even when technology began to assert itself, radio played that role, and it was still kind of an oral tradition. You'd sit around, you'd listen, and you'd fill in the pictures with your head, right? So on the one hand, I get it. It would be nice to have the visuals, which I'll put in. But on another level, it's like, use your fucking imagination, okay? Use your head, because you don't always need to have something in front of you, especially if the essence or whatever it is being transmitted or communicated, being communicated. That's the way it is. And so, but I apologize, because I'd like to do the best job I possibly can. In that moment, I could have done, I think I could have done better, being the Virgo that I am. But it was, I was dealing with this deficit. It was like, I couldn't see. And even my glasses, I couldn't see. It was really kind of a weird thing. Anyway, yeah, it was good. It was a good night, and got cranked up. And there's something that happens when I'm at that place. And I don't know what it is, but it almost feels like a portal in some ways. I've been going there for 4 years now, almost, I think. About 4 years. And I know more than that. I think I started to go there in 2015, so 4 years. And I think I've been there maybe 8 times in 4 years now. But every time I go there, there's something profound and magical that happens. And I can't explain it, at least for me. And it's a big 3-story house, and old. These are the old neighborhoods of America. These houses have been around for a very, very long time. So a lot of energy. And of course, the store itself does a lot of meditation and Qigong. And, there are a lot of things that happen there. So I think that there's something energetically also to the place. So let me check in with you guys and see what's happening. There's Natasha. There's Mary. Hey, Mary. Phoebe, hello. Ian, what's happening? Let's see. Who else we have? Hey, there's Ani. Hi, Ani. JMP. Chris and Steve, what's going on? Uncle Glenn, Isla. All right, we're getting here. We are assembling. Okay, good. All right, why don't we kind of drop into things a little bit? Interesting time at the Philadelphia airport, which is, I think, one of the shittiest airports on the planet, although, or maybe in the United States. It's not a bad airport, but going in and going out, man, that place was, it's not a lot of fun. Not the lines there are enormous. Like I was on a line to get through TSA 80 yards long, almost the entire length of a football field. Now, to their credit, they moved me on pretty quickly, but had other issues. I had TSA issues. What a pernicious thing that is. Anyway, so we're back on the case, and now reporting to you live. All right, so why don't we get into some astrology, since I didn't do the Sunday night show. I was watching recovering and watching the Eagles game with a bunch of depressed Philly fans, which was or Eagle fans, probably the same people. All right, so let's get into the chart of the moment here. Let's find out what we got going on astrologically, so we get up to speed. Okay, here we go. So we're at the 29th degree of Libra. The anaretic degree usually changes over on the 22nd, 23rd. Today it's going to be the 23rd. In a few mere moments, the sun, I believe by noon, will be in the sign of Scorpio. We're starting off this morning with the Scorpio on the ascendant, Venus and Mercury. Scorpio, Mercury will go retrograde on the 1st. So the day after Halloween should be a very interesting time as Mercury reverses course. It goes station just before that, right? So it's going to be in that station reversal mode on Halloween night. Very interesting. So if we think of, a lot of people think that, Samhain, Halloween is, it's a portal where the veils are very, very thin. And I would agree with that. In my experience, my best experience around Halloween was when I was in Mexico and got to experience Dias de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead. And I was in a graveyard cemetery in Mexico on that night. And it was tremendous, absolutely tremendous. We walked around this cemetery, and there were people that were hanging out by the graves near the tombstones, singing, eating, drinking, praying, everything short of playing board games. That's what they do. And it's not spooky. It's not grim. Very life-affirming experience in a lot of ways. Going there, hanging out, remembering the person is very important and a part of their lives. Probably one of the best Halloweens that I've been a part of. But again, in that world, when the veils are thin, that's why they're going there, so they can theoretically hang out and have a good chat with the people that were walking around at one time instead of floating around. Speaking of floating around, I was watching Monday Night Football. Oh my God, the Jets and the Patriots and Sam Darnold. He's now got one of the greatest and most embarrassing quotes in the history of the NFL. And what happened was the Jets were playing against the Patriots. Of course, Bill Belichick is. He's just Darth Vader, man. Belichick he's an evil genius. So he's playing this young quarterback who has played one game, played last week, played pretty well against the Dallas Cowboys. Like he was kind of, on the rise, on the come, as they say. And then he winds up playing against the Patriots, and Bill Belichick just confused the poor lad. So he winds up having this. He was mic'd up. And remember, Sam Darnold is a Gemini. So being mic'd up probably in his astrological wheelhouse. And he's having such a hard time. He says to himself, while sitting on the bench, seeing ghosts. I'm seeing ghosts, meaning that he thinks people are coming at him and they're not coming at him. I mean, how fucking dark Jedi is that? Bill Belichick created this dark Jedi thing. So Sam Darnold, probably one of the worst performances by a quarterback I've ever seen on a Monday Night Football game, on a nationally televised game, certainly Monday Night Football. It ranks right up there with one of the worst ever. He's terrible. I mean, there were throws that were not even, they were in the next county. They were in Bergen County. I think the Jets play in Nassau County, if I'm not mistaken. So he's throwing the ball into Bergen County. So that was going on Monday night, seeing ghosts. But it's appropriate because we're getting into the vernacular of Halloween and this thinning of the veils. This is why I'm talking about this. And I often think of sports as sort of a precursor to what happens culturally. And it used to be that music, you could see the things that would happen in music first, and then they would trickle down into sort of mainstream behavior, trends, fads, ideas. Now that's been replaced by sports because of the widespread coverage of sports and how sports has been used as a platform for social agendas. So here we go, Sam Darnold, seeing ghosts just a few mere weeks before Halloween. And what's really interesting is that I was reading this little snippet about Seth Rich. You guys remember Seth Rich, right? Seth Rich, the guy who supposedly leaked out to Julian Assange, Wikipedia or WikiLeaks, and changed the whole election. So somebody made this comment. I would not be surprised if we have a Seth Rich sighting, which got me to think, or thinking along the lines of this idea about ghosts and the Darnold quote. But as we go into this very, very thin thinning of the veil with Mercury stationing, right? I mean, it's right there. Mercury stationing right at just before the retrograde, which happens on the 1st. So the 31st is this really interesting time for stationary Mercury. And if we're thinking about the veil, and we're thinking about this kind of astronomical / astrological flux, because again, astronomically, astronomers do agree with astrologers that Mercury is in a retrograde motion. They talk about retrograde orbits of these so-called planets. So that's one area that they're in agreement on. So from a geocosmic perspective, the messenger of the gods in the sign of Scorpio, which is the gateway to the underworld, has a brief period of time where it's stationary. How I would interpret that is that the portal is open. So this Halloween is going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting. Even the few days that lead up to it, like the 30th, 29th, we're not that far away. I think the theme is ghosts. Ghosts. Who will reappear? Who will make appearances? Who will make appearances? Right? Who will be able to be resurrected during that period of time? Just think about that for a moment. Remember that. Remember that. Just keep that in mind. It's going to be the time of ghosts, phantasms, reanimation, the past. And if there is a large portal, and it does happen, it will happen, there's going to be a opportunity here for also maybe other kind of worldly transport. You know, we're talking entities, we're talking, bees moving back and forth between worlds, quite possibly. I mean, this is going to be a very interesting Halloween. Just trust me on this. And this is not just what's going to happen that night in terms of the Halloween itself, and it could be very dark too. I mean, Halloween is not a light it's not a light period of time because we're moving into the season of death. That's what the day represents. And we're moving really from this wonderful fall period that we've been in, and Halloween and the 1st of November is the significator that we're really moving into winter. So we're moving from the gentle side of fall to the more dark and barren side of fall. That's what it represents. It's the death of the seasons as well. Let's look at the chart. We've got Mars and Libra squaring off against Saturn and Pluto. The Mars-Saturn square, that's going to be in effect for the next couple of days. And that's grinding against authority. And I've got a grinding against authority story that I'm going to talk about after I'm done with this. And it's grinding my gears, and it's grinding a lot of other people's gears. And then we've got a Mars square to Pluto, which is probably related to the Mars-Saturn square. And it is not a good square. Remember, I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this upcoming square, and now we're getting much closer. So within the next 2 weeks, as Mars moves into closer orb with Pluto, the intensity ratchets up. And we've got Mars and Libra, which is really kind of the calling card of social justice. It is the calling card of social justice. And what we've seen, or what I'm going to be sharing with you in a few minutes, is indicative of where I think Mars and Libra is, or was, is, and will be moving towards. And potentially with a dramatic and tragic effect, and maybe even climax. I'll get into more of that as I continue to unfold this stuff here. So this is getting trickier and trickier and trickier, this square, because people are itching for justice, right? For me, Mars and Libra when it's ill aspected is like the lynch mob. It's what it is. It's like the lynch mob, because you're dealing with Mars energy, which is aggressive, right? Mars rules Aries, but we have it in the opposite sign of Libra. So the energy in the right direction can be good. In the wrong direction, then Mars and Libra is argumentative and is always trying to fight for equality or equal rights, even if there is no fight to be had. It will find the fight to fight, or find the right to fight, or find the fight for the individual to assert its rights. So this is Mars and Libra. It can be good in the right context. In the wrong context, it is very challenging, very, very challenging. So you have Mars and Libra in your chart. Find a cause, find a good cause for it. Maybe stand up for the vanishing prairie dog or something like that. You know what I mean? Find a good cause for your Mars and Libra, because you got to work your Mars. You got to work the Mars. Wherever Mars is in your chart, you got to work it. And some Mars are easier to work than others. Mars and Libra, find that cause in a relationship. You should work actively with your partner. That's the nature of Mars and Libra. Either directly with some kind of work, or physical work, working out, whatever that is. But this is intense energy, for dealing with this idea of impeachment and Trump and all that stuff. Mars and Libra is right at the Dems' alley, and maybe some Republicans' alley, because they are out for justice and balancing the scales, their scales, not the scales of justice in general, but their scales. And grinding here. By the way, still Ruth Bader Ginsburg, where is she? Where also, which is really, really interesting, is that if you look at the Supreme Court, they have not ruled on anything really significantly in almost a year and a half. No big votes. No big votes. You think it's a coincidence that there's no really significant landmark votes and no Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Or at least publicly? We used to see her all the time. Now we don't see her at all. If we see her, it's probably some reanimated bot or Tron that they've been working on. Anyway, here we have last degree of the Sun, 29. Libra, over the course of the next few days, we're going to have Sun-Uranus opposition. We're already there now. It's going to get more pronounced. So as we have Sun-Uranus opposition, Mars square Saturn, Mars square Pluto, that is a combination that is revolutionary. It's radical. It is fiery. It is potentially violent with the Mars-Pluto square. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm not here to be a fear monger. I'm just giving you a heads up. We're looking at the astrological weather, and it's going to get intense over the next few days and over the weekend. Okay, Venus, Mercury conjunction, trining Neptune. That's good. We like that. Venus is right in that sweet spot. It's beginning to separate a little bit from Neptune, but this can be the fluid, the viscosity of human kindness in some ways, right here, right? And then we also have the sextiles with Venus and Mercury to Saturn, Pluto. So there is some energy here, the trine and the sextile, which allows us to get in touch with what we're thinking and how we're feeling. This is much more personal in some ways than this and this, right? Mars, especially squaring the outer planets, and with the opposition to Uranus, tends to be more collective. Here we have the opportunity for more personal kinds of patience, balance, some sharing, some depth, some kindness. Even the Jupiter square to Neptune, Jupiter's moving away. So it's still in that square mode, but we're getting more on the side of Jupiter than we were on Neptune, right? Because before, when Jupiter was behind Neptune, we're talking like 15 degrees, 14 degrees, right around there. And even in the retrograde motion, we were getting more Neptune, which meant we're getting more illusion. Now that Jupiter is moving past Neptune, we're getting more truth. So we're on the other side of this now, and the floodgates are about to burst. Okay, we have the true node in Cancer at 11, south node in Capricorn, well, in my chart. South node in Capricorn is at 11. And then today the moon is in Leo. Take pride in what you do. All that good stuff. All right, there's your astrological weather report for today and for essentially the week ahead, or what we're looking at. All right, I'm back. Let me check in with everybody, see where you are. We're going to jump into the discourse of the day. And let's do this. Okay. All right, we're back. Let me find you guys on YouTube. We're running the campaign here is really heating up. Really heating up on the fluoride stuff. I'll get into more of that. Let's see what we have here. Got to drop. Listen, see you later, Tamara. We got Judy. There's Judy, and who else is here? There's Lynn. Hi, Lynn. Just watched a great movie called Coco about the Day of the Dead. Very enjoyable, and I need to know about the holiday. There's Judy again, and Joan. Hey, Joan. Phoebe. There is something there, Maury. What is Maury saying? The possibility has reached public mind. Well, he was a no-show at the Dallas Trump rally. What else do we have here? JFK Jr. Assange is a mess, can hardly speak or stand, tortured into oblivion. There's Steve, a vehicle for, hey Steve, fanatical fascism. What else do we have? Whisper for day for Derek and I. Okay, what else do we have? Is it the place? I got a weird vibe from the room you were speaking at. Not so great. Oh, interesting, Ani. Very interesting. I was in and out of that place just once about 10 years ago. Let's see, Scuzzy, what are we talking about here? I love your presentation. Yeah, I don't know. I have a good time with solutions. So not Scuzzy at all. So anyway, but that's just me. I don't know. Maybe I've just got good Philly karma. My sun line goes right through that area. All right, let's get back into really kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And where do I start? Let's go here. I'm not there. Yeah, this is where we want to start, right here. All right, this is a story that I've been tracking, and I read this to some of you guys recently. So They had a verdict on the case of Georgoulas and her husband. Okay, so this is from LifeSite News. Now, Georgoulas is the psychiatric pediatric woman who wants to transition one of her kids. And to go, the child's name is James. And she wants to transition the child to Luna. Now, the boy self-identifies as James around the father. And around the mother, I believe, she forces him to identify as Luna. Anyway, he lost. The father lost the case. This is what I've got here. So jury rules against dad trying to save a 7-year-old from gender transition. So how would you like to have a group of people, just people, ruling on whether or not you can raise your child as a boy because he was born as a boy? First of all, let's start with that premise, which is absolutely and utterly contemptible. So now we're in a place and time in our society and in our world where we can, or we will and do have, and it's been happening for a while, have a room full of strangers rule upon and adjudicate how you can raise your kids. There is something terribly amiss about this story in this picture. Now, those 12 strangers, those 12 people who are going to rule not just on your life, but they're playing God. They're playing God with the life of a 7-year-old child. Think about that. Now, how is the jury assembled? We don't always know how juries are assembled. We think that the juries are assembled between two lawyers. We have the prosecution and defense who go through kind of this interesting little tryout to see who's going to be for their case and against their case, and they try to get an equal amount of for and against, or people that they think will work in their favor or work against the other party's favor. That's how these things work out theoretically, right? There's supposed to be a check and balance in there, and then out of those 12 people, it should be maybe 6 on one side and 6 on the other side, and through that process, a couple get changed or moved over. And then you have the ability for a room full of strangers to come up with a verdict. I'm not always sure that's the case. I'm sure that since we live in a satanically driven society, that the pool of jurors, or the jury pool, it consists of people that might actually be selected or chosen based upon their connection, quite possibly, with other groups that have a vested interest in outcome in very specific kinds of cases. Now, again, I'm speculating here. I don't have any proof, but I don't think it would be out of the question for juries to ultimately be rigged, so that the people that would be passing judgment on a particular case may be passing judgment because that particular case will support their worldview or support their otherworldly or not of this worldview, if you know what I'm saying. And I don't know the exact specifics on who's on that jury, but what's really fascinating is the judge, this woman, Kim Cooks, purports herself to be a Baptist. She's a piece of work, this woman. I looked at her. She's got a YouTube page. Maybe I'll throw it up there. Maybe I'll even just throw the link up. Maybe I'll just play a few minutes of her. It is so self-aggrandizing. Like she's one of these people that is so into her myth. So into her myth. She's got a story. It's about her story. About a little girl from Colorado who had a dream. I'll play some. I'll play a little bit. Let's just read this. Jury in Dallas, Texas, has ruled against Jeffrey Younger, the father who is trying to protect his 7-year-old son James from chemical castration via a gender transition. Now, I looked into where this kid is going to be going. There's a clinic in Dallas called Genesis, Genesis, Genesis. And it is a clinic where they do not perform the augmentation, but they provide all the psychological, psychiatric, and chemical services, which means they get you hooked up with the drugs. They get you hooked up with the blockers, the testosterone blockers, and they get the child to begin to move chemically into the transition, which is a chemical castration. So this Genesis is linked up to another group, a much bigger group, which is connected to the worldwide education and advocacy of transition. And let me see if I still have this up here. I can find it. Let me just throw this. I'm gonna do a different share here. Stop the share so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. So this is the group that Genesis and a lot of these clinics are connected to. GEIE. This is wpath.org, GEIP. GEI news and announcements, future GEI courses coming soon. So WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. So this is a serious group. They've got papers, they've got certification. So now you can get certified, find out the steps you need to take to secure your path, your WPATH certified provider certification. So people are looking around and they're looking for jobs because, well, you know, having a job is important theoretically. And they're looking at industries or fields that are burgeoning and growing. And guess what? Transgenderism and gender reassignment, it's a growing field. So here you can get certified. You've got upcoming GEI courses. Join us at one of our upcoming Global Education Initiative training courses. Now, GEI, I haven't dug that far into it. I'm just starting to put these things together, and I'm going to try to put something bigger together. I'm sure it's connected to the Pritzkers and the transgender medical industrial lobby, because there's hundreds of millions of dollars. We're talking close to billions of dollars. It's being funneled into transgender research for medical purposes, lobbying purposes, research purposes, training, right? Law, full spectrum. You know, the Pritzkers are a huge family behind this. And I always forget this guy's name, but it's this guy that started, Sirius Radio. And I forget his name. But he's the husband, or I don't know what he is now. He was the husband, now he's the wife, because he's transgendered of that woman, Bina. Bina's his wife, and he's got like Bina 3000. He's creating this robotic version of his wife. I mean, these people are so fucked up. I'm sorry. It's like, oh, Bina will live forever. This is my gift to her immortality. You know, these people are fucking nuts. I swear to God. And they're being elevated. They're being elevated as the priests and priestesses of they're being elevated as the priests and priestesses of Hermaphrodite. So essentially what this is the cult of Hermaphrodite. And Hermaphrodite, of course, is connected to Baphomet, which is the sort of the unisex transgendered model of the realignment and the reconnecting of duality. But it's all synthetic and fake and false and a lie. You reconnect with duality in a much more integrated way, right? It's much more integrated, but that's another discussion. Maybe I'll have that on Friday. But this is what's driving. This is what's driving part of what's driving a lot of the transgender reassignment. It's a global initiative, global group, spreading the gospel and training, spreading the gospel and training, spreading the gospel and training. And this genesis, see, here we go. This is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. This is their standards of care, available in 18 languages. Think about that now. I'm sure the Arabic group is very appreciative and supportive of it. So let me see. Let me see if I can find this Genesis place. I think this is it over here. This is where this boy is going to go. So yeah, let me throw this up here. And so childrenshealth.com. Childrenshealth.com specialties. But it's really this Genesis, gender affirming care program, gender education and care, interdisciplinary. Just, you know, the way that they put these things together, it just sounds so loving, doesn't it? Well, look at all these wonderful hands upon hands. So we're all one together, all hands on. You know, we have an older hand. See the older hand? You can tell it's older because it's got all those little splotches and freckles. Oh, and then we have sort of the, you know, the darker, more sort of melatonated hands over here. And on top we have a female hand. But do we really know it's a female? We don't know if it's a female hand or not. It's got the nail polish, but we don't know. That's just it. You see, there are many hands, but we don't know the faces behind the hands. They're just hands. They're trans hands. So Genesis provides comprehensive gender affirming care to transgender and gender diverse youth. Gender diverse youth. And then we got a new term, gender diverse. It's another little layer of that diversity. Gender diverse. We support youth of all gender expressions and identities. Oh, really? 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 I bet you they'd support you a little bit more if you weren't okay with your particular gender or identity. I think they'd support you a little bit less if you were really okay with that. If you're a guy, I'm okay with being a guy, or I'm okay with being a girl. Well, there are others who need our support more than you. Genesis providers follow established guidelines from the Endocrine Society, clinical practice guidelines, the World Professional Association for Transgender, there's that WPATH, for medical and mental health services, also consistent with the American Academy of Pediatrics policy statements. So when you read things like this, what they're doing essentially is they're validating their accreditation. See, we have all these very powerful, very accredited groups that believe in us and support our work. So if they do, you should support us and trust us as well. Because we're taking orders from the Most High in this realm. And we're here to basically help you support cutting your kid's dick off. We're here to support you in that. It's be nice and gentle, and you know, everything's gonna be nice and soft and nice and soft and nice and soft, and right? That's how it's gonna go. Oh yes. So here's what's going to happen. Could you imagine explaining this to a kid, by the way? I mean, I don't get this at all. Because at some point, that boy is going to have to essentially be told that he is going to lose his penis. And they probably have some wonderful little video that tells a wonderful little story about a unicorn that loses its horn. Right? That's because wouldn't that be the most kind of obvious thing? One day, Cecil the unicorn looked around and he looked at all the other unicorns with their horns, and Cecil wanted to know what would happen if he didn't have a horn like all the other unicorns? Cecil began to spend more time alone to think about what would happen without his horn. Then one day, something miraculous happened to Cecil. As Cecil was off on his own, contemplating his horn, he happened to run into another creature that looked very much like him, but didn't have a horn. Cecil was shocked to find out that there were unicorns in the world without horns. Cecil then found out that the creature was called a horse, and horses don't have horns. And when Cecil found out that horses don't have horns, he didn't feel so alone anymore. Then Cecil galloped back to the rest of the unicorns, and he said, "Guess what I did? I found something called a horse, and the horse didn't have a horn. So I feel much less alone in the world now, knowing that there are unicorns without horns." Then magically, the fairy that looks over all the unicorns in their special magical unicorn land heard Cecil and appeared before Cecil. "Cecil, I have heard that you were not happy with your horn, but today you found a horse, a unicorn without a horn, and you felt very comfortable around that horse. Cecil, if you'd like, I can wave my magic wand, and you could remove your horn, and you can run with the horses, and you would still have a home here with the unicorns." Cecil thought about it, and he looked at all of his unicorn family and friends, and they nodded their heads in approval. And with their support, Cecil knew that he could have his horn removed, and he could still be a unicorn, but now he could run with the horses. And when Cecil nodded his head, the magical fairy of Unicorn Land waved her magical wand, which, by the way, was the horn of a unicorn that had been taken away from another unicorn at an earlier time, but that's a different story. Move the magical unicorn wand over Cecil. Once, twice, 3 times. And after the 3rd time, Cecil's horn was gone. Cecil felt a little uncomfortable, but the more he felt himself, he felt free. He felt free. And he knew that he could be a unicorn or he could be a horse. And the first thing he wanted to do was to go run and tell his new horse friend that he didn't have a unicorn any longer. That's the kind of shit that they'll show that kid. Cecil. Isn't that interesting? Oh, wow. Okay, so I never thought about this before, right? But unicorn is unique horn. Think about that. Unicorn, unicorn. You take the horn away and you got a eunuch. Unicorn, unicorn. In any case, I'm bringing some dark humor, a lighter humor to a very dark situation. This kid is going to be so fucked up. He's going to be so fucked up. His brother's going to be fucked up. The community's going to be fucked up. The dad is a mess. The only one who's happy is the mother. She's walking through that clinic this morning. They're high-fiving. You know they're high-fiving. Woohoo! 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 They're doing happy dances at Andrew Georgoulas' clinic. Happy dance. You know, they'll probably have pictures of Luna. Pictures of the moon all over the place. Luna, Luna, Luna. When I heard about this yesterday, I was sick. was sick to my stomach. I was sick to my stomach that some fucking jury, some stupid ass judge is going to rule over a parent's right. Now, one parent obviously has the right. Now, by the way, she has sole custody. Not only does she get determined, she has sole custody. He can't see his kid anymore. He can see the other kid, Jude, but he can't see her or him or whoever James is going to be. Sole custody. He lost it all. He lost it all. This is a much bigger conversation, but it's one that needs to happen, I think, right now. Let me take a little hit off the power coffee. Okay. This gets back to choices. Ultimately, the father made a terrible choice. Made a terrible choice by picking that woman to be the mother of his kids. Apparently, I think there's something about in vitro or something, like she didn't even have those kids, or there's something weird about their pregnancy. I have to dive into it a bit more. At the end of the day, though, he made a bad choice. This is what happens when you make bad choices. You make bad choices, wrong people, you're fucked. You're really fucked. And if you make bad people and wrong choices, then, well, the reason why we do is because we're not clear with ourselves. We're just not clear with ourselves. Getting clear with yourself is one of the hardest things to do. It's very difficult, but it's important, and you have to do it. You want to survive and get through this life, you got to get clear with yourself. And we're all works in progress. That's just the case. And but the fact of the matter is that things are accelerating, and guess what? You can gain great ground right now in this game and figure stuff out very quickly. But you got to be able to get there, and you got to be able to move into a place where you are uncomfortable. That's one of the hardest things for any of us to do. We like to stay in our comfort zones, and that's not where it's happening. That's not where the action is. It's not in the comfort zone. And the comfort zone is in the comfort or discomfort is in here. Trust me, I go through this a lot in my own life. I'm not when I talk about stuff, I don't talk about stuff that is outside of my realm of expertise, or I try not to preach what I don't practice. Right? I mean, this is really important, because when you start to do that, everything gets very, very messy, and then we're living a very distorted view of who we are. And nothing works at that point. You're just like everybody else. I'm not perfect, but doing everything I can to address things in a very frontline manner. So, but it can be done. This is a time where things are accelerating very, very quickly, very quickly. And one of the things I really like about my work is I get to work with people on this stuff and help them kind of get through and untangle these knots if they're willing to listen to it. So there's a lot of that going on right now. It is happening, and it's good. It's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for the rest of the world. But it's not happening in North Dallas, where there's still an incredible amount of distortion. And one of the things that's going to be the fallout of this case, I don't get a good feeling from this. I don't get a good feeling at all. I think that there is, like, this is public. People know who this clinic is. People know who this judge is, and I am not advocating violence whatsoever. I would not be surprised if somewhere through this process there is some kind of violence that takes place. I would not be surprised at all. Not be surprised. And it's really unfortunate. There's no recourse at all. I mean, this guy could take it to another court, higher court, more money, which he doesn't have. But if there is a Christian community out there, and I think theoretically there is, then what I would do is I would give this guy whatever it takes to keep fighting this thing all the way to the freaking Supreme Court. If that's what it took, this guy should have all the money in the world to get to the next level, and his kid, unfortunately, will be during that time period a year away. He'll be, deep in the throes of his chemical castration. So, and gender reassignment. So a year from now, you know, he might just be answering to Luna, and the brainwashing transformation will be complete. And in which case, the courts will look at, well, he's a girl now, identifying a girl. Why are we having this discussion? It's really messed up. Messed up. So, do you guys want to see the video for this judge who ruled on this case? I found this interesting little video. Her name is Kim Cooks, and she's a very, very inspirational person. Sorry.
I'm Judge Kim Cooks, and
Here we go. This video to me is the epitome of hypocrisy. The epitome of hypocrisy. And you'll see why. So let's go share. Share computer sound. Here we go. All right. So this is the judge, Kim Cooks. She was the one that's ruling, presiding over the Georgoulas Younger case. Here we go. Imagination at work. Dream again. Dreaming God-sized dreams.
Living the God-sized dream. I'm originally from Colorado. Colorado Springs is where I grew up. I attended public school, and if anyone knows, in Colorado, the population of blacks as well as minorities is very, very minute. So when I was in elementary school, I would sit by the window and watch the snowflakes fall, and I would daydream. That's when I started daydreaming about, you know, what would I be when I grow up? And I always wanted to be a doctor when I grew up.
So why is that a white kid? So she's daydreaming. It's a child. First of all, Blue, it's a boy. I mean, Blue is a boy. It looks like a boy to me. And he's white. So she's dreaming about being a white kid growing up. Why couldn't she use, like, is there no, like, video of young black children or young black girls walking through the snow? Wouldn't that have been more appropriate? What is this about? I mean, this is really, I mean, I know I'm kind of making fun of this, but it's kind of a disconnect already, right? She's talking about her life. This child is supposed to be indicative of her dream as a child. Number one, he's white. Number two, he's a boy. Okay, let's continue.
So when I graduated from high school, I started to go to college in Colorado, and I always used to watch the weather and say, when I grow up, I'm gonna move to Texas, because it was so nice, it was so warm, and it's cold. It's subject to snow in June in Colorado, and I just knew.
Look at the video production on this thing. So this is a drone shot, high definition, looks like it's in Dallas. This is not a kind of fly-by-night little production for this woman. This is not cheap. This little inspirational video that she did for herself.
I knew I wanted to move to Texas, and I told my parents, you know, I'm going to go to college in Texas. I'm not going to finish college in Colorado. And they told me if I decided to go to Texas that they weren't going to pay for me to go to college. So I left anyways. And little did I know that when I got to Texas, I would have to pay out-of-state residence fees. So although I got accepted into college.
Little did I know that I have to pay. You're a college student. Most college students, you know, figure this shit out pretty quickly. And you're going to be a judge. Here we go.
I couldn't afford to pay for it because it was double the tuition. So I took off a year and I worked for 2 full-time jobs and tried to save as much money as I could. So the following year, then I started college at University of Texas at Arlington.
So we have a wonderful little Masonic symbol here, 5-pointed star. We have the square coming down. If you go through Texas, Arlington, Fort Worth, it is Masonic as fuck. And Texas is a very, very high-level Freemasonic state. Here we go.
And I finished college there. I never had any student loans or any financial aid. I paid my way through school. My parents didn't help me because I was disobedient. In my last year,
Here we go, because
my parents didn't help me because I was disobedient.
I was disobedient. Oh, she's taking a lot of pleasure in that. Taking a lot of pleasure in her disobedience, isn't she?
In my last year of school, I decided I no longer want to go to be a doctor. So I do have.
Okay. This is a judge. This is a judge. This is a high-level person in our society that adjudicates people's lives. I want you to hear that last sentence. You ready? Let me play that last sentence again for you.
I no longer want to go to be a doctor.
What did she just say? Hold on, one more time. Let's do that again.
Last year of school, I decided I no longer want to go to be a doctor. So I do have a degree in.
She barely got it. I no longer want to go to be a doctor. I no longer want to go to be a doctor. This is a judge. I no longer want to go to be a doctor. It sounds like a nice song lyric. But possibly, I no longer want to go to be the doctor, something like that. But this is a sentence coming out of the mouth of a judge. I no longer want to go to be a doctor. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? I'm sure there are people in the medical industry or the medical field that are probably very thrilled that you no longer want to go to be a doctor. Just saying. However, the legal field in the judiciary realm have embraced you with open arms. Let's keep going.
Biology with a minor in business management. But I decided to go to law school. And I told my advisor my senior year of college that I don't want to go to, be a doctor. I want to go to law school.
I don't want to go to be a doctor. I don't want to go to be a doctor. I get it. No one want to go to be a doctor. I told my advisor, I don't want to be a doctor any longer. I want to move into law. I know I'm being a little nitpicky here, but this is what's being presented to us. And it's just this part of the story is very awkward to listen to and watch, but more along the lines of listen. Here we go.
School, he made a phone call across campus and they were having tryouts for the debate team. So we walked across campus and I made the debate team. So it was like everything started falling in place. I went to law school in Houston. I interned for a judge. And as I sat there, I'm looking at the judge and I'm like, you know what? I want to be judge one day. I didn't know when it was going to happen.
You know what? I want to be judge one day. I want to be judge one day. Whatever happened to, you know what? I'd really like to be a judge. I want to be judge one day. I'm sorry. I know. I'm in really, dicey territory here, but this is somebody who is a judge. Can you just use at least some kind of vernacular that we can relate to, or at least say that's very judge-like?
What happened? And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just started dreaming again. There I go, daydreaming. Wasn't paying attention to the trial. I was daydreaming of how in the world.
Well, apparently she was doing the same thing with her last trial, which was very, very important. She was probably daydreaming and not paying attention to the trial. Because she was paying attention to the trial, she realized that what was going on in that courtroom was of immense significance and importance. But I bet she was daydreaming.
World I'm going to be judged, but I don't know how. So in 2007, I moved back to Dallas started practicing in Dallas, and in 2013, I decided I'm going to run for judge. But before.
So 2017, so she has 6 years worth of law practice. 6 years worth of law practice. And who knows what that's like? Who knows what her law practice was like? Who knows what she was doing? What was she working on? What kind of cases? What kind of help? What was her efficacy rate? She's in an area where, probably based on the demographics, she could probably run and probably get voted in. I don't think that that's too hard to do. Doesn't necessarily qualify you as being a good judge. We have a judge in the Supreme Court who never tried a case in her life. She was a professor of law, and that's it. No actual hands-on legal courtroom, hand-to-hand combat. So here we go. Let's keep playing that.
Before I could clearly decide whether I was going to run for judge, I had to pray about it. I had to pray if, is this the right thing to do? Is this my calling? And I received God's answer that, yes, that was my calling to run.
And this is what we get. See, now if I was a Christian, this would begin to dim my faith a little bit in God. Because apparently she picked up the phone, got on the hotline, got the word, and now she's a judge. And the only thing I can think of is that God, in all of his infinite wisdom, made her a judge so that we can see how corrupt and venal the system is.
For judge. So I did run, and the Democratic primaries came out March of 2014. And when the early voting, it usually determines whether you win or not. Early voting, I came out like 64% to my opponent, who was an incumbent, her 30-something%. So at that time, I didn't actually know I won. Everyone else knew I won that watched TV and saw the results come in.
But I was just daydreaming, wasn't paying attention. I was too busy taking selfies.
But I went to my victory party, and when I entered, that's when everybody told me that I had actually won, because I didn't take any phone calls, no text messages, I didn't watch TV, I didn't want to know. And I
donning the black robe of Saturn. That's what the judgeship is. That's why the robes are black. They're Saturnian. You now become a high priest of Saturn, the adjudicator, when you don those robes. Look at all the orbs. How magical. How magical.
Actually won. And I believe that although I daydreamed a lot in school, those weren't God-sized dreams. The God-sized dreams was me dreaming about being a judge. And it was a faith walk that I had to take because I really did.
This woman is just oozing Christianity. And again, I'm not here as a representative of Christianity, but she's oozing Christianity, and she is adjudicating this case where essentially science is now playing God. Interesting.
Didn't have no money, and I made things happen, and people kept falling into place, and it was only because of God. And what I had to learn from that faith walk is you never allow people to enter your mind with dirty feet. All those people who are naysayers, you have to never let them enter your mind. Never let.
This woman is so fucking into herself. Look, she's got this little picture over here, but she's so into herself. I've looked on YouTube, on the internet. There are pictures of her working out. She's a bodybuilder. She's a vanity queen. This woman is so vain. So vain.
Let them tell you anything, because what God has for you, it's for you. I'm Judge Kim Cooks, and I'm living the God-sized dream. I'm the judge of the 255th Family Court in Dallas County, and I would do nothing else but this job. It is the
I'm sure there are a lot of people today that are listening to that statement that would like nothing more than anything else for you to not do this job.
court in Dallas County, and I would do nothing else but this job. It is the best job ever, and I thank God for allowing me to live my dream.
Christians, how do you reconcile that? That's a tough one, man. Living my dreams. Living my dreams. Well, you've helped participate in living somebody else's nightmare. You should have recused yourself. You should have recused yourself. If you're really a Christian around this thing, you should have recused yourself. But she didn't. Comments are interesting. They're starting to come in. Let's see, we have, you would be judged one day. We got two things there that are inspiring. Gaze upon this face. It is the face of the devil. Kim will cook that poor 7-year-old boy's wee-wee in a frying pan. This woman is forcing a 7-year-old boy to undergo gender transition. What is wrong with you, godless monster? 7-year-old boy is not a girl. Take this story down. State and force homosexuality and child abuse. Not very Christian. How does your church plan to address this? Be very interesting. Very interesting. This woman's got a little bit of a dilemma on her hands. And I'm sure her church will just be so supportive, right? We'll see. So again, I don't think it's going to come out very well in the wash. I just don't. We haven't heard the end of this case, but even with this Mars square to Saturn, Mars Pluto square coming up, I don't advocate violence at all. I really don't. But I really it feels to me like something's in the wind here. This is a very hot button case, a very hot button issue. It's happening here in the state of Texas, which is a lot more blue than people think. A lot more. Did you know, by the way, the first transgender judge is from Texas as well? You guys see this picture. I just had to show you. This is the first transgender judge in the United States, I believe. I think it's Texas. Texas is the first non-transgender judge. That's your first transgender judge. That is Phyllis Fry. Phyllis Fry used to be an Eagle Scout. How about that? God, these people are so messed up, man. Here's the, let's see. What did I say? What did I say? Okay, remember I said that Texas is the hotbed of Freemasonry, right? Phyllis Fry, born circa 1946, is a transgender woman. She was born in San Antonio, Texas. Fry is the middle of 3 children in a traditional rigid family. Her father was an engineer and a mason. In her younger years, she was an Eagle Scout and was a member of the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Fry attended Texas A&M, where she graduated with a BS in Civil Engineering, MS Mechanical Engineering. While at Texas A&M, Fry was a member of the University Corps of Cadets, belonged to Texas A&M Singing Cadets. In her 3rd year at Texas A&M, Fry married her first wife, when Fry was he. They eventually had a son. Fry joined the U.S. Army and post-graduation Texas A&M was stationed in West Germany as a lieutenant. Fry disclosed her struggles with her sexual identity to her Army superiors, where they sent her back to the United States with an effort to be cured. These efforts included drug therapy, hypnosis, aversion therapy. When these attempts all failed, the wife filed for divorce. She was honorably discharged from the Army in 1972 after being forced to resign. After her discharge from the Army, she had a low point in her life, attempted suicide. She uses the event to turn her life around. She began working as a civil engineer, became a born-again Christian, and met her second wife, Trish. Okay, so I'm assuming at this point, he's still a she, or she's still a he, and born-again Christian. Okay, let's just keep going. I just don't understand this. Transitioned at 70 or 30 rather. Fry earned an MBA and JD from the University of Houston. Found herself completely isolated. So she requested seating charts for her classes, memorized her classmates' names, and approached them individually. What the fuck? Who does this? Seating charts? Memorizing the names of everybody? Some people are really messed up. I'm sorry. Joined the Christian Legal Society, but eventually got the group suspended for discrimination because they were secretly meeting to avoid letting her be involved. Do you blame them? While at school, she underwent feminizing hormone therapy and electrolysis, leaving her going through substantial physical changes. Couldn't find a firm that would hire her, so she sold Amway products. Worked sporadically as an engineering consultant to criminal defense cases. Democrat, League of Women's Voters, local gay and lesbian caucus, blah, blah, blah. First gender woman in Houston's lesbian softball league. Wow, that's a really fantastic accomplishment. Became the county's first openly transgender judge. After being discriminated against heavily in both private and public sphere from people vandalizing her house, refusing her jobs. So there you go. See the Tootsie in the background. Texas ain't as red as you think. That's for sure. All right, let me check in with you guys and see where y'all are at, because I'm about ready to check out of here for today. Let's see what we got. Let's see, Tootsie for subliminal programming. She's got a poster. Yes, I know, right? When it applies the name Phyllis. Look closely, possible trans herself. Oh, you mean the judge? I don't know about the judge. In Dallas, maybe. Let's see what else we have. Who put this moron in power? It's because it's districting, Ani. It's a districting thing. Highly elected, total narcissist. Anne's got some interesting insight here. You can be sure she got plenty of funds, including cancellation of debts from NGOs like the Soros, Rothschild, who are really Orson nonprofit groups pumped out of the Federal Reserve. Let's see what else we have. Godsmack Dallas. Enter your mind with dirty feet. Family court. So she has the power to decide the fate of families. Yes, that's right. Christianity is fabricated, cognitive dissonant, Piscean dream. Robert, when I read that, I have to agree with you. Where you leave all your rights at the door. Fail your way to success, absolutely. Peter Principle in action, definitely. Jesus just puked. Stupid on two legs, don that black robe of Satan. Judge has no prosecutor or jury trial experience. That's right. Judge is asleep in the morning, drunk in the afternoon, bar rules, so it's legal. That's funny. Nice to see you, Sticky. It fell in my lap. Wow, that was a swift climb. Very much. Very, very much. You'll be a judge. All this daydreaming of must have been in English class. I don't want to go be no judge. Because she be an elected judge and I'm an appointed judge, now elected in her district. She knew before what the, I would agree with that, Steve. Or ability to articulate properly. It's embarrassing, right? Embarrassing. Totally embarrassing. Totally, totally embarrassing. The age of the androgyne. Yep. Yep. What else we have here? Frankfurt School. Yep, that's right. Let's see. What else? Hermes, Aphrodite. Yep. The Wachowski brothers are both sisters. That's true. Yep, it's true. What else we have here? Dallas is on its way to Austin. Houston's already Austin, by the way. No cell phone coverage in Sedona, huh? Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. I think that's it. The kids are the victims, totally. Copyright that story, or they'll steal it from me. Oh, Cecil the unicorn? Yeah. The unicorn. Whole new light, right? Anyway. All right. I'm going to get out of here. It's good to be back. Thank you for being a part of this, where we talk about these things in a way that hopefully we can continue to talk about them in a very truthful and forthright manner. So until tomorrow, use your head to discern what's real in your heart. Do stay up when it's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. Have yourself a very, very